9-year-old Ezra Martinez thought selling lemonade would help his struggling family pay the bills. He never expected 3 bullies on expensive bikes to destroy his stand and steal his money. But when a mysterious man in a black car started watching from across the street, everything changed. What this stranger did next would shock the entire neighborhood and reveal a secret that would turn Ezra's world upside down. This is the true story of how one boy's determination to help his family led to the most unexpected reunion of his life. That eve, July's sun blazed down on Maple Street in Bakersfield, California, making the cracked sidewalk shimmer like water. 9-year-old Ezra Martinez wiped sweat from his forehead as he dragged the old card table from their garage. His sneakers squeaked against the hot concrete, and his t-shirt already stuck to his back. "Careful with that table, mijo," his mom, Rosa, called from the front porch. She was getting ready for her second job of the day, smoothing down her work uniform. Dark circles shadowed her tired eyes, but she still smiled at her son. "Make sure it doesn't wobble." Ezra tested the table legs. One was shorter than the others, so he grabbed a folded napkin from his pocket and wedged it underneath. Perfect. He spread a bright yellow tablecloth over the surface, the same tablecloth his grandmother had used for birthday parties before she passed away last year. "Ezra, where did you put the pitcher?" 8-year-old Carmen bounced down the front steps, her summer camp backpack slung over one shoulder. Her dark curls were pulled back in 2 neat braids that Rosa had woven early that morning. "Right here." Ezra held up the big glass pitcher that used to hold sweet tea at family gatherings. Now it would hold something even more special. Fresh lemonade made from Grandma Elena's secret recipe. Carmen helped him arrange the paper cups in neat rows. They had bought the cups yesterday at the dollar store with money Rosa had scraped together from the change jar. 50 bright yellow cups that matched the tablecloth. "Remember," Carmen said, squeezing lemons with the intensity of a scientist, "Grandma always said the secret was to add just a tiny bit of mint. Not too much, or it tastes like toothpaste." Ezra nodded seriously. He had watched Grandma Elena make this lemonade dozens of times during hot summer afternoons when they lived in her little house across town, before Dad left, before money got tight, before Mom had to work 2 jobs just to keep them in their rental house on Maple Street. The memory stung, but Ezra pushed it away. Today was about moving forward, not looking back. He carefully measured sugar into the pitcher, then added fresh lemon juice and cold water from the tap. Carmen dropped in 2 small mint leaves from the plant. They grew in a coffee can on the kitchen windowsill. Ezra stirred with a long wooden spoon until the sugar dissolved completely. "Taste test," Carmen announced, dipping a clean finger into the mixture. She sipped and made a thinking face. More sugar. Ezra added another spoonful and stirred again. This time, when Carmen tasted it, she grinned. "Perfect. Grandma would be proud." Rosa appeared beside them, car keys jingling in her hand. "You two be careful out here. Stay where I can see you from Mrs. Chen's window." She pointed to the house next door, where she would be watching from while she got ready for her evening cleaning job downtown. "We will, Mom," Ezra promised. "Carmen's camp bus comes at noon, so she'll only be here for an hour." "And you'll pack up before I leave for work?" "Yes, ma'am." Rosa kissed both their foreheads. "I'm proud of you for working so hard to help our family. But remember, if anyone gives you trouble, you come inside immediately." After Rosa went next door to Mrs. Chen's house, Ezra and Carmen put the finishing touches on their lemonade stand. Ezra had spent 3 hours the night before, making colorful signs with Carmen's crayons. "Fresh lemonade, 50 cents!" proclaimed the biggest sign. decorated with pictures of yellow lemons and green mint leaves. A smaller sign read, "Made with love and Grandma's recipe." "First customer," Carmen pointed down the street. Mrs. Chen walked over from next door, moving, slowly, in the heat. She was 73 years old and had lived on Maple Street longer than anyone else. Her gray hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and she wore a light blue dress that matched her kind eyes. "Good morning, young entrepreneurs," she said with a slight accent that reminded Ezra of his grandmother. "I hear you're selling the famous Elena Martinez lemonade recipe." "Yes, ma'am," Ezra said politely. "Would you like to try some?" Mrs. Chen bought 2 cups, one for herself and one for her grandson, who was visiting from San Francisco. She sipped, carefully, then smiled wide. "This tastes exactly like your grandmother's lemonade," she said. "She made the best lemonade in all of Bakersfield." Ezra's chest swelled with pride. "Thank you, Mrs. Chen." She handed him a dollar bill. "Keep the change, dear. You're doing good work here." As Mrs. Chen walked back to her house, Ezra carefully folded the dollar and put it in the small metal box they used for money. $1. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Over the next 30 minutes, 3 more neighbors stopped by the stand. Mr. Garcia from the corner house bought lemonade for his family of 5. Mrs. Martinez, no relation, but they shared the same last name, bought 2 cups for her teenage sons. A jogger in bright running clothes stopped for a quick drink and complimented Ezra on his business skills. By the time Carmen's camp bus arrived, Ezra had made $4.50. He waved goodbye to his sister and counted the money again, organizing the bills and coins in neat piles. $4.50 might not seem like much to some people, but to Ezra, it represented hope. Hope that he could help his mom, pay for the car repair she needed. Hope that maybe they could afford school supplies when August came. Hope that hard work really did pay off, just like Grandma Elena always said. The sun climbed higher, and Maple Street grew quiet. Most people were inside their air-conditioned houses, waiting for the afternoon heat to pass. Ezra didn't mind. He sat behind his lemonade stand, making plans for tomorrow. Maybe he could make cookies to sell alongside the lemonade. Maybe he could expand to other streets in the neighborhood. His daydreams were interrupted by the sound of bicycle wheels on asphalt. 3 boys rode up the street, pedaling expensive mountain bikes that probably cost more than his mom made in a month. The boy in front was bigger than the others, with sandy blonde hair and a mean look in his green eyes. Ezra had seen him around the neighborhood before. He lived in one of the fancy houses on the other side of Riverside Drive, where the rich kids lived. The boy stopped his bike right in front of Ezra's stand and looked down at him with a smirk. "Well, well," he said, loudly enough for his friends to hear. "What do we have here?" Ezra's stomach tightened, but he managed to keep his voice steady. "Would you like some lemonade? It's 50 cents a cup." The boy laughed, but it wasn't a nice laugh. 50 cents for some kid's backyard lemonade? That's pretty expensive for sugar water. "It's made with my grandmother's recipe," Ezra said quietly. "It's really good." "Your grandmother's recipe?" The boy's voice turned mocking. "I bet your grandmother made lemonade for poor people who couldn't afford real drinks." Ezra felt his face get hot, but not from the sun. "My grandmother made the best lemonade in Bakersfield." "Sure she did." The boy reached out and flicked one of Ezra's carefully made signs. It fluttered to the ground. "This whole setup looks pretty pathetic. Don't you have anything better to do than sit out here begging for money?" "I'm not begging," Ezra said, his voice stronger now. "I'm working." The boy's friends snickered. One of them, a redhead with freckles, reached over and knocked over the stack of paper cups. They scattered across the hot sidewalk. "Oops," the redhead said with fake innocence. Ezra quickly bent down to gather the cups, his heart pounding. As he knelt on the concrete, the blond boy leaned over him. "Here's some free advice, kid. This is our neighborhood now. Pack up this garbage and find somewhere else to play store." Ezra looked up at the three boys surrounding his lemonade stand. Their expensive bikes, their name-brand clothes, their confident sneers. Everything about them screamed that they had never worried about money or car repairs or helping their families survive. But Ezra had something they didn't have. He had Grandma Elena's recipe. He had his mother's work ethic. And he had a reason to fight. "This is a free country," Ezra said, standing up with the cups clutched in his hands. "I can sell lemonade here." The blond boy's eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that." He grabbed the pitcher of lemonade and dumped it onto the sidewalk. The sweet, minty liquid splashed everywhere, soaking into the cracks in the concrete and running toward the street. Ezra watched his hard work flow away and felt tears sting his eyes. But he didn't cry. Not in front of these bullies. The three boys rode away laughing, leaving Ezra alone with his overturned cups and empty pitcher. He sat down heavily on the curb and looked at his ruined lemonade stand. In the distance, a car engine started. Ezra glanced up and noticed a black sedan with tinted windows parked across the street. He had never seen it before, and he couldn't see who was inside. The car sat there for a long moment, as if the driver was watching him. Then, slowly, it drove away. Ezra gathered his supplies and trudged back toward the house, his dreams of helping his family seeming as scattered as the paper cups on the sidewalk. But as he reached the front porch, he heard the black car's engine again. It had returned and was parked in the same spot, the mysterious driver hidden behind dark glass. Someone was watching him. But who? And why? Ezra stood on his front porch, staring at the black car across the street. The windows were so dark, he couldn't see inside, but he felt like someone was looking right back at him. His skin prickled with goosebumps despite the hot July sun. The car's engine hummed quietly for another minute. Then it drove away slowly down Maple Street. Ezra watched until it disappeared around the corner near the old fire station. "Mijo, what happened?" Rosa appeared at the front door, still wearing her cleaning uniform. She had come home between jobs to check on him. Her eyes moved from Ezra's sad face to the wet sidewalk where his lemonade had been dumped. "Some boys came by," Ezra said quietly. "They didn't like my lemonade stand." Rosa's face grew angry. She walked to the sidewalk and saw the scattered paper cups and sticky puddle of lemonade. "They did this to you?" Ezra nodded. "There were 3 of them. They had really nice bikes and expensive clothes. The biggest one said this was their neighborhood now." Rosa knelt down and pulled Ezra into a hug. Her uniform smelled like the lemon cleaner she used at the office buildings downtown. "I'm sorry this happened, baby. Some people are just mean." "Why would they care about my lemonade stand? I wasn't hurting anyone." "Sometimes bullies pick on people who are trying to do good things," Rosa said softly. "They see someone working hard, and it makes them feel bad about themselves. So they try to make that person feel bad, too." Ezra pulled back from the hug. "But I was just trying to help our family." "I know you were, and I'm proud of you for that." Rosa stood up and brushed off her knees. "But maybe you should take a break from the lemonade stand. Find something else to do this summer." "No," Ezra said louder than he meant to. "I don't want to quit. Grandma Elena never quit when things got hard." Rosa smiled sadly. "Your grandmother was very brave, but she didn't have to deal with bullies when she was 9 years old. Mom, you always tell me not to give up. You work 2 jobs even when you're Tired. You never quit. Rosa looked at her son for a long moment. In his dark brown eyes, she saw the same determination that had gotten their family through the hardest times. The same stubborn strength that had helped her survive when Ezra's father left. "You're right," she said finally. "We don't give up. In this family." She reached into her purse and pulled out a crumpled $5 bill. "Go buy more lemons, but promise me you'll be careful." Ezra's face lit up. "Really? You want me to try again?" "Really? But if those boys come back, you pack up everything and come inside. Promise?" "I promise." After Rosa left for her evening job, Ezra walked 2 blocks to Miller's Market. The small store sat on the corner of Maple Street and Pine Avenue between a laundromat and a tire repair shop. A bell jingled when Ezra pushed open the glass door. The air conditioning felt wonderful after the hot sidewalk. Ezra breathed in the familiar smells of fresh bread and floor wax. Mr. Miller stood behind the counter, reading a newspaper. He was 70 years old with white hair and kind blue eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Well, hello there, Ezra," Mr. Miller said, folding his newspaper. "How's your lemonade business going?" "Not so good today," Ezra admitted. He selected a bag of lemons from the produce section and carried it to the counter. "Some boys didn't like my stand." Mr. Miller's eyebrows rose. "Boys from the neighborhood? I think they live across town in the fancy houses. They had really expensive bikes." "Ah." Mr. Miller nodded like he understood something important. "Rich kids who think they own the whole town. Do you know them?" "I know the type. They come in here sometimes with their parents, act like they're better than everyone else." Mr. Miller rang up the lemons. "That'll be $3. Ezra handed over the $5 bill Rosa had given him. Mr. Miller made change, then did something unexpected. He reached under the counter and pulled out 2 more lemons. "These are free," he said, putting them in Ezra's bag. "For a young businessman who doesn't give up." "Thank you, Mr. Miller. But why are you helping me?" The old man leaned across the counter and spoke quietly. "Because I started my first business when I was 10 years old. Had a paper route that covered 6 blocks. Some older kids tried to steal my customers and beat me up when I wouldn't quit. What did you do?" "I kept delivering papers. Every single day, no matter what they did to me. You know what happened?" Ezra shook his head. "The customers started protecting me. They saw how hard I worked, and they didn't like seeing me get picked on. Pretty soon, those bullies had the whole neighborhood mad at them." Mr. Miller straightened up and smiled. "Real businessmen never quit, Ezra. Come back tomorrow, and I'll give you a deal on more lemons." Walking home, Ezra felt better than he had all day. Mr. Miller believed in him. His mom believed in him. He could do this. Back on Maple Street, he noticed the black car was parked in the same spot again. The mysterious driver seemed to be waiting for something, or someone. Ezra set up his lemonade stand again, this time closer to the front porch, where he could run inside quickly if needed. He mixed fresh lemonade with Grandma Elena's recipe, arranged new paper cups, and put out his colorful signs. Mrs. Chen came over immediately when she saw the stand was back. "Those boys came back?" she asked, looking worried. "Different boys." "Mean. Ones with expensive bikes." Mrs. Chen's face grew stern. "I saw them. Spoiled children who think money makes them special." She bought 2 cups of lemonade and gave Ezra an extra $1 for being brave. Over the next hour, 4 more neighbors stopped by. Word was spreading about what had happened, and people wanted to support Ezra. He sold 8 cups of lemonade and made $6. But his happiness didn't last long. The sound of bicycle wheels on asphalt made his stomach drop. The three boys were back, and this time they had brought friends. 5 expensive bikes surrounded his lemonade stand. The blond boy from earlier smiled meanly. "I thought I told you to pack up this junk." "This is a public sidewalk," Ezra said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I have a right to be here." "Rights?" The boy laughed. "You don't have any rights. Poor kids like you should know their place." One of the new boys, a tall kid with dark hair, reached over and knocked Ezra's money box to the ground. Coins scattered across the sidewalk. "Stop it!" Ezra dropped to his knees, trying to gather his money. The redhead from yesterday poured fresh lemonade onto the ground again. "Oops! Clumsy me!" Ezra stood up with coins clutched in his fists. Tears of anger and frustration filled his eyes, but he blinked them back. "Why are you doing this? I never did anything to you." The blond boy stepped closer. "Because this is our town, our neighborhood, and we don't want trash like you making. It looked bad." He shoved Ezra hard in the chest. Ezra stumbled backward and fell, scraping his elbow on the concrete. The pain shot up his arm, and this time he couldn't stop the tears. The boys laughed and started to ride away, but the blond boy turned back. "Stay down where you belong," he called out. "And if I see this lemonade stand again, you'll get worse than a scraped elbow." They pedaled away, leaving Ezra sitting on the hot sidewalk with blood on his arm and his second batch of lemonade soaking into the concrete. Across the street, the black car's engine started, but instead of driving away, it moved closer. The driver pulled up right in front of Ezra's house and rolled down the passenger window just a crack. Ezra couldn't see the person inside, but he heard a man's voice, deep and concerned. "Are you okay, son?" Ezra wiped his eyes and nodded. "Yes, sir. Those boys shouldn't have done that to you." "I know, sir." The window rolled up again, and the car drove away. But this time, Ezra noticed something. As the mysterious driver pulled away from the curb, his hand reached out the window and dropped something small onto the sidewalk near Ezra's broken stand. Ezra limped over and picked it up. It was a white envelope with his name written on it in neat handwriting. His heart pounded as he tore it open. Inside was a $20 bill and a note that made his hands shake. "For a young businessman who refuses to give up, tomorrow will be better. A friend." Ezra stared at the money and the note. $20 was more than he had made in both days combined. But who was this mysterious friend, and how did he know Ezra's name? As Ezra looked down the street where the black car had disappeared, one question echoed in his mind. Who was watching over him? And why did they care so much about a 9-year-old boy's lemonade stand? His elbow throbbed where he had scraped it on the concrete. Blood had dried on his skin, making his arm feel stiff. But the $20 bill in his hand seemed to make the pain fade away. Someone out there believed in him. Someone thought his lemonade stand was worth protecting. Ezra limped to the front porch and sat down heavily on the wooden steps. The envelope felt smooth between his fingers as he read the note again. For a young businessman who refuses to give up, tomorrow will be better. A friend. The handwriting was neat and careful, like someone had taken time to make each letter perfect. It reminded Ezra of how his father used to write, back when his father still lived with them and helped with homework at the kitchen table. The front door creaked open behind him. Carmen peeked out, her summer camp backpack still on her shoulders. "Ezra, why are you sitting out here? And why is there lemonade all over the sidewalk again?" Ezra quickly folded the $20 bill and slipped it into his pocket. He didn't want Carmen to worry about the bullies or ask too many questions about the mysterious money. "Just cleaning up," he said. "How was camp today?" Carmen sat down next to him and noticed the scrape on his elbow. "You're hurt! What happened?" "I fell down. It's not bad." But Carmen had sharp eyes for an 8-year-old. She looked at the scattered cups, the overturned table, and the sticky puddle of lemonade, drying in the heat. "Those mean boys came back, didn't they?" Ezra nodded. There was no point in lying to his sister. She would figure it out anyway. "How many this time?" "5. Carmen's face scrunched up with anger. "5 against 1? That's not fair." "Life isn't always fair, Carmen. Mom says we just have to keep trying anyway." Carmen helped Ezra clean up the mess and carry their supplies back to the garage. They worked in silence, both thinking about what to do next. That evening, Rosa came home from her cleaning job looking exhausted. Her uniform was wrinkled, and her shoes made soft squeaking sounds on the kitchen floor. She had been on her feet for 12 hours straight. "How did today go, mijos?" she asked, sitting down at the kitchen table. Ezra and Carmen exchanged looks. Finally, Ezra pulled out the $20 bill and placed it on the table. Rosa's eyes widened. "Ezra, where did this come from?" "Someone left it for me." "With a note." Ezra showed her the envelope. Rosa read the note twice, then looked at the money again. "Who would give you this much money?" "I don't know." "There was a man in a black car. He was watching my lemonade stand, but I couldn't see his face. After the boys knocked me down, he drove by and dropped this envelope. A strange man gave you money?" Rosa's voice got sharp with worry. "Ezra, you should have told me immediately. You never take money from strangers." "But Mom, he was trying to help. And he didn't ask me to do anything weird. He just wanted to support my business." Rosa stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the street. "I don't like this. Strange men don't give children money for no reason." "Maybe he just felt sorry for me," Ezra said. "Mrs. Chen gave me extra money too." "That's different. Mrs. Chen is our neighbor. We know her." Rosa came back to the table and sat down. "Promise me something, Ezra. If you see this man again, you come inside immediately and call me." "I promise. But can I keep the money? I want to buy better supplies for my lemonade stand." Rosa looked at the $20 bill for a long time. Finally, she sighed. "We'll keep it for now. But if this man tries to contact you again, we're calling the police." The next morning was Saturday. Rosa didn't have to work until evening, so she decided to help Ezra with his lemonade stand. They walked to Miller's Market together, and Rosa was amazed at how much supplies they could buy with $20. Fresh lemons, real sugar instead of the cheap stuff, and even some strawberries to make strawberry lemonade, Rosa said, loading groceries into their cart. "Your mysterious friend certainly gave you enough money to do this, right?" Mr. Miller smiled when he saw them at the checkout counter. "Starting big today, are we?" "Someone gave Ezra money to expand his business," Rosa explained. "That's wonderful. This boy deserves all the support he can get." Mr. Miller bagged their groceries carefully. "You know, I've been thinking, what if I put a sign in my window advertising Ezra's lemonade stand? Bring you some customers from the other side of town." Ezra's face lit up. "Really? You would do that?" "Of course. Good businesses help each other succeed." Back home, Ezra and Rosa spent the morning preparing for the biggest lemonade stand Maple Street had ever seen. They made 3 different flavors: regular lemonade with Grandma Elena's recipe, strawberry lemonade with fresh berries, and mint lemonade with extra herbs from their kitchen plant. Rosa helped Ezra make new signs with poster board and colorful markers. Fresh lemonade, 3 flavors, and made with love and the best ingredients. They even made a small sign that said, "Thank you for supporting young entrepreneurs." By noon, they had everything set up on the card table under the shade of their small front yard tree. 3 pitchers of lemonade sparkled in the sunlight like liquid gems. "This looks professional," Rosa said, stepping back to admire their work. Almost immediately, customers started arriving. Mrs. Chen brought her grandson from San Francisco, who bought strawberry lemonade and told Ezra it was better than anything he could get in the big city. Mr. Garcia came by with his wife and bought drinks for their whole family. Even Mrs. Patterson from 3 houses down walked over with her 2 teenage sons. "I heard about what's been happening to you," Mrs. Patterson said quietly to Ezra. "Those boys should be ashamed of themselves. Here's $5. Keep the change." In the first hour, Ezra sold 12 cups of lemonade and made $18. He had never seen so much money from his own work. But his happiness was interrupted by a familiar sound: bicycle wheels on asphalt. This time, 6 boys rode up to his stand. The blonde leader looked angrier than ever. His green eyes were cold as ice when he saw the expanded lemonade operation. "I thought I made myself clear yesterday," he said, getting off his bike. But today was different. Rosa stood next to Ezra, her arms crossed and her eyes flashing with protective fury. "And I'm making myself clear today," she said, in a voice that could cut glass. "If you touch my son or his lemonade stand, I'll call the police and your parents." The boy laughed. "My dad owns half this town, lady. The police won't do anything to me. We'll see about that." Just then, the black car appeared again. It pulled up slowly and parked across the street in the same spot as before. The engine idled quietly, and once again, Ezra couldn't see who was inside. But this time, something was different. The driver's side door opened slightly, and a man's hand became visible, resting on the doorframe. The hand was large and strong, with a small scar across the knuckles. Ezra stared at that hand, and a strange feeling washed over him. He had seen that scar before, somewhere in his memories. But where? The blonde boy noticed the car too and seemed nervous. "Come on, guys," he said to his friends. "Let's get out of here." They rode away quickly, but not before the leader shouted over his shoulder, "This isn't over!" The black car sat there for another minute. Then the door closed, and it drove away. But as it passed Ezra's house, the passenger window rolled down just enough for something small to flutter out onto the sidewalk. After the car disappeared, Ezra ran to pick up what had been dropped. It was another envelope, but this one was different. Instead of money, it contained a business card with only a phone number printed on it. On the back, someone had written in the same neat handwriting, "Call if you need help. Your friend." Ezra showed the card to his mother. Rosa studied it carefully, her face growing pale. "Ezra," she said slowly, "that handwriting, it looks familiar." "Familiar how?" Rosa didn't answer. She just stared at the card with a strange expression, like she had seen a ghost. "Mom? What's wrong?" "Nothing, mijo. I'm probably just imagining things." But her voice sounded shaky, and she kept looking down the street where the black car had gone. That night, as Ezra counted his money before bed, $23 total. He couldn't stop thinking about his mother's reaction to the business card. She knew something about their mysterious helper, something she wasn't telling him. He pulled out the card and stared at the phone number. Should he call? What would he say? And why did his mother look so scared when she saw the handwriting? Outside, his bedroom window, Maple Street was quiet and dark. But somewhere out there, Ezra knew, Someone was watching over him. Someone who cared enough to help a 9-year-old boy achieve his dreams. The question was, who? Ezra turned the business card over and over in his hands, studying every detail. The paper was thick and expensive, the kind used by important businesses. The phone number was printed in small, neat letters, and below it, someone had written, "Call, if you need help," in the same careful handwriting as the first note. But it was his mother's reaction that puzzled him most. When Rosa saw the card, her face had gone white as milk. Her hands had trembled when she touched it. She definitely recognized something, but she wouldn't say what. Sunday morning arrived with gray clouds hanging low over Bakersfield. The air felt heavy and thick, like rain was coming. Rosa had left early for her grocery store job, and Carmen was still asleep in her bed, with her favorite stuffed elephant tucked under her arm. Ezra sat at the kitchen table, eating cereal and staring at the business card propped against the milk carton. Should he call the number? What if it was some kind of trick? But then again, the mysterious person had already given him money and scared away the bullies twice. Maybe they really were trying to help. He was still thinking about it when Mrs. Chen knocked on the front door. "Good morning, Ezra," she said. When he answered, "I wanted to check on you before you set up your stand today." "I'm okay, Mrs. Chen." "Thank you." She looked at the dark clouds gathering overhead. "Looks like we might get a storm later. Maybe you should wait until this afternoon to start selling." Ezra had thought about that too. But Sunday was usually a good day for lemonade sales. Families were home from church, kids were playing outside, and people liked to sit on their porches and relax. "I think I'll try for a few hours this morning," he said. "If it starts to rain, I'll pack up quick." Mrs. Chen smiled. "You're a determined young man. Your grandmother would be very proud." After she left, Ezra spent an hour setting up his stand. He arranged 3 pitchers of fresh lemonade on the card table, put out stacks of paper cups, and displayed his colorful signs. The business card stayed in his pocket, but he could feel it there like a small weight against his leg. By 10 o'clock, he had sold 6 cups to neighbors heading home from early church services. The money clinked satisfyingly in his metal box. Mostly quarters and dollar bills, but each one represented his hard work. Then he heard the sound that made his stomach clench. Bicycle wheels on asphalt. But this time, it wasn't just 3 or 5 boys. 7 kids on expensive bikes rode up, Maple Street in a pack, with the blonde boy leading them like a general commanding an army. Ezra's hands started to shake. 7 against 1 wasn't fair. But he had learned that bullies didn't care about fairness. They only cared about making other people feel small and scared. The blonde boy got off his bike and walked straight to Ezra's lemonade stand. Up close, Ezra could see that his name was probably expensive. His shirt had a fancy polo player logo, his shoes looked brand new, and even his bike probably cost more than Rosa made in a month. "I thought I told you to stay away from this neighborhood," the boy said. His voice was calm, but his green eyes were angry. "This is where I live," Ezra replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "I have a right to be here." "Rights?" The boy laughed, and his friends joined in. "Poor kids like you don't have rights. You have what we let you have." One of the other boys, a tall kid with dark hair, stepped forward. "Tyler's being nice to you, little boy. He could make things much worse." So the blonde boy's name was Tyler. Ezra filed that information away in his mind, though he wasn't sure why it mattered. "I'm not bothering anyone," Ezra said. "I'm just selling lemonade." "You're bothering us," Tyler replied. "This cheap garbage makes the whole street look trashy. Rich people are starting to move into this neighborhood, and we don't want them to. See? This He waved his hand at Ezra's stand like it was something disgusting. "My lemonade isn't garbage," Ezra said, his voice getting stronger. "It's made with my grandmother's recipe, and people like it." "Your grandmother probably made lemonade for poor people who didn't know any better," Tyler sneered. "Real people buy drinks from real stores." That was too much. Ezra felt anger bubble up in his chest like a shaken soda bottle. "Don't talk about my grandmother. She was a better person than you'll ever be." Tyler's face went red. "How dare you talk to me like that?" He grabbed the nearest pitcher of lemonade and raised it over his head. "Maybe I should dump this on you instead of the ground." Ezra closed his eyes and waited for the cold liquid to hit him. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it in his ears. But the lemonade never came. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." The voice was deep and calm, but it carried the kind of authority that made everyone stop and listen. Ezra opened his eyes and saw a man standing about 10 feet away. He was tall, maybe 6 feet, with broad shoulders and graying dark hair. He wore a simple black t-shirt and jeans, but something about the way he stood made him seem important. His face was serious, but not mean, and his dark brown eyes reminded Ezra of someone, though he couldn't quite remember who. Tyler lowered the pitcher, but didn't put it down. "Who are you? This isn't your business." "I'm making it my business," the man said quietly. He pulled out a cell phone. "I've been watching you boys for 3 days. I have videos of everything you've done to this young man." The other boys started, looking nervous. A few of them moved closer to their bikes, ready to escape if needed. "So what?" Tyler said, but his voice wasn't as confident as before. "We're just kids. You can't do anything to us." The man smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "I know exactly who you are, Tyler Brooks. Your father is David Brooks, who owns Brooks Construction Company. Your mother is Jennifer Brooks, who sits on the school board." Tyler's face went pale. "How do you know that?" "I also know Jake Morrison," the man continued, pointing to the red-headed boy. "Your mother is the principal at Bakersfield Elementary School, and Marcus Chen, your father, owns Chen's restaurant on Ming Avenue." Each boy the man named took a step backward. How could this stranger know so much about them? "Here's what's going to happen," the man said, his voice still calm but somehow scary. "You're going to put that pitcher down. You're going to apologize to Ezra for everything you've done, and you're going to pay him back every penny you've stolen from him." "You can't make us do anything," Tyler said, but his hands were shaking. "Now," the man held up his phone. "I can send these videos to your parents, your schools, and the police. Theft and assault are crimes, even when children do them." Tyler looked at his friends, but they were all backing away from him. Nobody wanted to be part of this anymore. I don't have any money with me," Tyler stammered. "Then you'll bring it tomorrow. All of you will bring money to pay for the damage you've caused and the lemonade you've stolen." The man stepped closer to Tyler, and suddenly Tyler looked very small despite being one of the biggest kids in the group. "And if you ever bother this boy again," the man said quietly, "I'll make sure everyone in town knows what kind of bullies you really are." Tyler dropped the pitcher. It hit the sidewalk and shattered, sending glass and lemonade everywhere. But nobody moved to clean it up. "I'm sorry," Tyler mumbled, not looking at Ezra. "Louder," the man said. "I'm sorry, Ezra." Tyler's voice cracked, like he might start crying. "I was wrong to pick on you." The other boys started getting on their bikes. Tyler followed them. But before he rode away, he pulled some crumpled dollar bills from his pocket and threw them on the ground near Ezra's stand. "There's your money," he said, then pedaled away as fast as he could. After the boys disappeared, around the corner, Ezra bent down to pick up the money and the broken glass. The man knelt beside him to help. "Are you hurt?" the man asked gently. "No, sir. Thank you for helping me." Up close, Ezra could see that the man had a small scar across him. His knuckles, just like the hand he had seen reaching out of the black car. This was definitely his mysterious protector. "What's your name?" Ezra asked. The man paused for a moment, like he was deciding how much to tell. "You can call me Miguel," he said finally. Miguel. The name hit Ezra like a lightning bolt. His father's name had been Miguel. But that was impossible. His father had left 2 years ago and never come back. "Miguel Martinez?" Ezra whispered. The man's face went very still. "How did you know my last name?" Ezra stared into the man's dark brown eyes, eyes that looked exactly like his own, and felt his world turn upside down. "Because," Ezra said, his voice barely a whisper, "Miguel Martinez is my father's name." Thunder rumbled overhead, and the first fat raindrops began to fall. But neither of them moved to go inside. They just stood there in the gathering storm, father and son, staring at each other after 2 long years apart. Finally, Miguel spoke. "Hello, Ezra. I've missed you so much." The raindrops fell harder now, making dark spots on the concrete around them. Ezra stood frozen, staring at the man who claimed to be his father. Miguel looked older than Ezra remembered. There were lines around his eyes and gray streaks in his dark hair, but those eyes were definitely the same ones Ezra saw in old family photos. "You're really my dad?" Ezra's voice came out small and shaky. Miguel nodded, his own eyes filling with tears. "Janos, I know I look different. It's been 2 years since you've seen me. But you left us. Mom said you didn't want to be a family anymore." Miguel's face crumpled with pain. "Oh, Ezra, I never wanted to leave you. I never stopped wanting to be your father." The rain was coming down steadily now. Miguel glanced at the lemonade stand getting soaked. "Let's get this inside before it's ruined. Then we can talk." Together, they quickly gathered the pitchers, cups, and signs. Miguel lifted the heavy card table like it weighed nothing, and they carried everything to the covered front porch. Ezra's hands shook as he stacked the wet paper cups, partly from the cold rain and partly from the shock of seeing his father again. Once they were under the porch roof, an awkward silence fell between them. Ezra didn't know what to say. For 2 years, he had imagined what he would do if his father came back. Sometimes he pictured himself angry and yelling. Sometimes he imagined running away. But now that it was really happening, he just felt confused and scared. "Why didn't you come back sooner?" Ezra finally asked. Miguel sat down heavily on the porch steps and put his head in his hands. "Because I thought your mother didn't want me anymore. I thought you and Carmen were better off without me. Mom always said you chose the army over us." "I never chose the army over you," Miguel said firmly. "Everything I did in the army was for you and Carmen and your mother. Every day I was away. I was working to make money, so our family could have a better life." Ezra sat down on the steps next to his father, but not too close. "Then why did you send those divorce papers?" Miguel looked up sharply. "What divorce papers?" "The ones that came in the mail. Mom cried for 3 days after she got them. She said you wanted to end our family." Miguel's face went dark with anger, but not at Ezra. "I never sent any divorce papers. Someone else must have done that." "Who would do something like that?" Before Miguel could answer, the front door opened. Rosa stood there in her work uniform, having come home early because of the storm. When she saw Miguel sitting on her porch steps, she dropped her purse and car keys. They scattered across the wooden floor with loud crashes. "Miguel?" she whispered. "Is that really you?" Miguel stood up slowly. "Hello, Rosa." For a moment, nobody moved. Rosa stared at her ex-husband like she was seeing a ghost. Miguel stared back with a mixture of love and sadness on his face. Ezra looked back and forth between his parents, trying to understand all the emotions swirling around him. "What are you doing here?" Rosa's voice was barely a whisper. "I came to see my children. And to talk to you." "Talk to me?" Rosa's shock was turning into anger. "You disappeared for 2 years. You sent me divorce papers and never called or wrote or anything." "I never sent you divorce papers," Miguel said quietly. "I would never do that." Rosa marched into the house and came back with the manila envelope Ezra had seen before. She threw it at Miguel's feet. "Then explain these." Miguel picked up the envelope and examined it carefully. He read the return address, and his face turned red with fury. "This came from my brother Marcus," he said through gritted teeth. "Your brother? Why would Marcus send me divorce papers?" Miguel sat back down heavily. "Because he never liked you. He thought I was too young to get married and have kids. He said it would hurt my military career." Rosa's anger faltered. "But why would he forge your signature?" "Because while I was deployed overseas, he was handling all my mail and legal affairs. He had power of attorney to sign documents for me." Miguel's hands clenched into fists. "I trusted him to take care of things at home. I never thought he would betray me like this." Ezra looked at his mother. Tears were streaming down her face. "You really didn't know about the divorce papers? I swear to you, I had no idea. When I got back to California 3 months ago, I found out we were divorced. I thought you had moved on with your life." "Moved on?" Rosa laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "I worked 2 jobs just to keep us in this tiny house. I cry myself to sleep most nights missing you. How could you think I moved on?" Miguel stood up and took a step toward her. "Rosa, I am so sorry. If I had known what Marcus did—" "You've been back for 3 months?" Rosa's voice rose. 3 months? And you never tried to contact us?" Miguel looked ashamed. "I was scared. I thought you hated me for being gone so long. I thought the kids would be angry with me. So you decided to spy on us instead?" Rosa gestured toward the street where the black car had been parked. "You've been watching our house like some kind of stalker." "I wasn't stalking. I was trying to get up the courage to talk to you. Then I heard Mrs. Chen at the grocery store, talking about Ezra's lemonade stand." "You know Mrs. Chen?" Miguel looked embarrassed. "I've been shopping there sometimes, hoping to see you at work. Mrs. Chen recognized me from our old neighborhood. She told me how hard Ezra was working to help the family." Rosa sank down onto the porch railing. "So you started watching him sell lemonade?" "I was so proud of him," Miguel said, his voice breaking. "My son was working so hard just like I taught him. And when those bullies showed up," his hands clenched again. "I couldn't just sit there and let them hurt my boy." Ezra had been listening to his parents talk, but now he had to ask the question that had been burning in his mind. "Dad, if you've been back for 3 months, where have you been living?" Miguel looked even more ashamed. "In a cheap motel on the other side of town. I've been saving money, trying to figure out how to fix things with your mother." "A motel?" Rosa's voice got soft. "Miguel, you could have come home. We never stopped loving you. Even after I was gone for so long? Even after I let Marcus destroy our family?" Rosa walked over to Miguel and put her hand on his cheek. You didn't destroy our family. Your brother did. And we can rebuild what was broken." Miguel covered her, hand with his own. "Do you really mean that?" Before Rosa could answer, the front door burst open and Carmen ran out, still in her pajamas. "Daddy!" she screamed, launching herself into Miguel's arms. "Daddy! You came back!" Miguel caught her and spun her around, both of them crying and laughing at the same time. "My little princess, you've grown so big!" "I missed you every single day," Carmen sobbed into his shoulder. "I saved all my drawings to show you. I want to see every single one," Miguel said, holding her tight. Ezra watched his family embrace and felt a warm feeling spread through his chest. For the first time in 2 years, they were all together again. But there was still one thing that bothered him. "Dad," he said quietly, "why didn't you just tell me who you were when you helped with the bullies?" Miguel set Carmen down and knelt in front of Ezra. "Because I was afraid you wouldn't want to see me. I was afraid you would tell me to go away and never come back." Ezra thought about this for a moment. "I might have been angry at first, but I always wanted you to come home. I should have trusted you," Miguel said. "I should have trusted all of you." Rosa wiped her eyes and looked at her family, her children, and the man she had never stopped loving. "So what happens now?" Miguel looked up at her hopefully. "Now we figure out how to be a family again, if you'll have me back." "Of course we want you back," Carmen said. "Right, Ezra?" Ezra nodded. "But things have to be different this time. No more secrets. No more disappearing. No more secrets," Miguel promised. "And I'm never leaving you again." As the rain continued to fall on Maple Street, the Martinez family sat together on their front porch for the first time in 2 years. There would be a lot to work out, a lot of healing to do. But for now, they were together again. And that was enough. But their peaceful moment didn't last long. A shiny black SUV pulled up in front of their house with a loud rumble. The engine was so big, it sounded like a monster truck. Through the rain-streaked windshield, Ezra could see 2 figures sitting inside. "Who is that?" Rosa asked, standing up from the porch steps. Miguel moved protectively in front of his family. His military training made him alert to danger, and something about this expensive vehicle felt wrong on their quiet street. The driver's door opened, and a large man in a dark suit stepped out. He was tall and thick, with gray hair slicked back and angry eyes. Despite the rain, he walked slowly toward their porch, like he owned the whole neighborhood. Behind him came a smaller figure that made Ezra's stomach drop. Tyler Brooks followed his father, looking scared and wet in the rain. "Are you Miguel Martinez?" the big man demanded, stopping at the bottom of their porch steps. Miguel stepped forward, putting himself between the stranger and his family. "I am. Who's asking?" "David Brooks. I own Brooks Construction Company." The man's voice was loud and commanding, like he was used to people jumping when he spoke. "I believe you threatened my son today." Miguel's jaw tightened. "Your son was bullying my boy." "I stopped him." "Bullying?" David Brooks laughed, but it wasn't a nice sound. "Boys will be boys. A little roughhousing never hurt anyone." Rosa stepped up beside Miguel. "Your son pushed my child down and made him bleed. He stole money and destroyed property. That's not roughhousing. That's assault and theft." David Brooks looked Rosa up and down like she was something dirty on his shoe. "And you are?" "I'm Rosa Martinez, Ezra's mother." "Ah." Brooks smiled coldly. "The woman who works at Patterson's Grocery and cleans office buildings at night. I know all about you." The way he said it made Rosa feel small, like there was something wrong with working hard to support her family. But Miguel put his arm around her shoulders. "There's nothing wrong with honest work," Miguel said firmly. "Of course not," Brooks replied. "But there is something wrong with letting your children harass decent families." "Harass?" Ezra couldn't stay quiet anymore. "I was just selling lemonade." Brooks turned his cold eyes on Ezra. "Your little lemonade stand is bringing down property values in this neighborhood. Do you know how much these houses are worth now?" "I don't care how much they're worth," Ezra said, his voice shaking but determined. "I live here too." "For now," Brooks said quietly. The threat hung in the air like a dark cloud. Miguel took a step forward. "What's that supposed to mean?" Brooks pulled out his phone and showed them a video. It was security footage from somewhere nearby, showing Miguel confronting Tyler and his friends at the lemonade stand. "This shows you threatening children," Brooks said, "intimidating minors. The police would be very interested in this video." "That video shows me protecting my son from bullies," Miguel replied. "Any parent would do the same thing." "Would they? Even a parent with a questionable military record?" Miguel's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" Brooks smiled like a shark. "I did some research on you, Martinez. Seems you weren't exactly an honor student in the Army. Something about disobeying orders and putting other soldiers at risk?" Rosa gasped. She had never heard this story before. "That's not what happened," Miguel said quietly. "Isn't it? The records show you were given a general discharge for refusing to follow direct orders during a combat mission. Not exactly honorable behavior." Tyler stood behind his father, looking miserable in the rain. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, but his father shot him a sharp look that made him close it again. "Here's what's going to happen," Brooks continued. "Your son is going to stop this lemonade nonsense. You're going to apologize to my boy for threatening him, and your family is going to stay away from the decent part of this neighborhood." "And if we don't?" Rosa asked. Brooks's smile got wider and meaner. "Well, it would be a shame if you lost your job at Patterson's grocery. Jim Patterson owes my company $50,000 for construction work on his store. One word from me about your son's disruptive behavior, and he might decide he doesn't need your services anymore." Rosa's face went white. That job was their main source of income. "You can't do that," she whispered. "Can't I? I also know about your night cleaning job. Funny thing, my company owns 3 of the office buildings you clean. I could easily recommend that they find a new cleaning service, one with more reliable employees." Miguel's hands clenched into fists. "You're threatening my wife's livelihood because your son is a bully?" "I'm protecting my family's reputation," Brooks said. "Tyler is a good boy who got carried away playing with some rough neighborhood kids. But this ends now." He looked directly at Ezra. "No more lemonade stand. No more bothering my son. And no more making this neighborhood look trashy with your little poverty circus." The words hit Ezra like a punch to the stomach. Poverty circus. Like his hard work and Grandma Elena's recipe were something to be ashamed of. "There's nothing trashy about my lemonade stand," Ezra said, tears mixing with raindrops on his cheeks. "I'm helping my family." "Your family needs to learn its place," Brooks replied. "Some people are meant to lead, and some people are meant to follow. Some people build businesses, and some people clean up after them." He turned back to Miguel. "You have until tomorrow morning to make your decision. Shut down the lemonade stand and keep your family in line, or face the consequences." Brooks started walking back to his SUV, then stopped and turned around. "Oh, and Martinez, I did some more digging into your background, Interesting things happen when word gets around about disgraced soldiers living in family neighborhoods. People start to worry about property values, about safety, about the kind of influences they want around their children. Miguel's face went rigid. "Are you threatening to spread lies about me?" "I don't need to spread lies. The truth is damaging enough." Brooks opened his car door. "Dishonorable discharge speaks for itself." "It wasn't dishonorable," Miguel shouted. "I saved a man's life." But Brooks was already getting into his SUV. Tyler climbed into the passenger seat, looking back at Ezra with something that might have been guilt in his eyes. As the expensive vehicle drove away, the Martinez family stood on their porch in stunned silence. The rain continued to fall, but now it felt cold and harsh instead of cleansing. "Miguel," Rosa said slowly, "what did he mean about your military discharge?" Miguel sank down onto the porch steps and put his head in his hands. "I didn't want you to find out this way." "Find out what?" "I wasn't dishonorably discharged," Miguel said quietly. "But I wasn't honorably discharged either." Ezra sat down next to his father. "What happened, Dad?" Miguel was quiet for a long moment, watching the rain run off the porch roof in steady streams. "We were on a mission in Afghanistan," he finally said. "My commanding officer ordered us to leave a wounded soldier behind because it was too dangerous to go back for him." "What did you do?" Carmen asked softly. "I disobeyed the order. I went back and carried that soldier to safety." Miguel's voice was barely a whisper. "He lived because I went back for him. He has a wife and 2 little girls who still have their father because I broke the rules." Rosa knelt down in front of Miguel and took his hands. "You did the right thing." "The army didn't think so. They said I put the whole squad at risk by disobeying orders. They gave me what's called a general discharge. Not honorable, but not dishonorable either." "You're a hero, Dad," Ezra said firmly. "You saved someone's life." Miguel looked up with tears in his eyes. "But now, Brooks is going to use it against us. He'll twist the truth and make me sound like a criminal. People will believe him because he has money and power." Rosa stood up, her face set with determination. "We're not going to let him bully us. Rosa, he can destroy our lives. He can get you fired from both jobs. He can turn the whole neighborhood against us. Then we'll fight back. How? We don't have money, or lawyers, or powerful friends." Rosa looked at her husband and children with fire in her eyes. "We have something better than money. We have each other. And we have the truth. The truth doesn't always win against money," Miguel said sadly. "Maybe not," Rosa replied. "But we're not going to find out by giving up." As the storm continued to rage around them, the Martinez family huddled together on their small porch, facing the biggest fight of their lives. David, Brooks had money, power, and connections. But the Martinez family had love, determination, and each other. The question was, would that be enough? That night, Ezra couldn't sleep. He lay in his small bed, listening to the rain tap against his window and thinking about David Brooks' angry face. The man's threats echoed in his mind like a scary movie that wouldn't end. What if Mom really lost her jobs? What if they had to move away from Maple Street? What if Dad decided it was too dangerous to stay with them and left again? Ezra rolled over and looked at his alarm clock. The red numbers glowed 2:47 a.m. He had been trying to fall asleep for 3 hours, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw Brooks's mean smile and heard his cold voice saying, "Poverty circus." A soft sound from the living room made Ezra sit up. Someone was awake downstairs. He crept to his bedroom door and opened it just a crack. His parents were sitting at the kitchen table talking in whispers. Mom had made coffee even though it was the middle of the night. Dad held a piece of paper in his hands. Probably his military discharge papers. "We could leave Bakersfield," Miguel was saying. "Start over somewhere else where Brooks can't hurt us." "Running away won't solve anything," Rosa replied. "And this is our home. Ezra and Carmen have friends here. I have jobs here. Jobs that Brooks can take away with one phone call." Rosa reached across the table and took Miguel's hand. "Then we'll find new jobs, better jobs." "Rosa, you don't understand how powerful men like Brooks operate. They have friends everywhere, in the police department, city hall, the school board. He could make life impossible for us." Ezra had heard enough. He tiptoed back to bed, but sleep still wouldn't come. His parents were scared, really scared, and if they were scared, maybe the family should be scared too. The next morning dawned bright and clear, as if the storm had washed all the clouds away. But the sunshine couldn't wash away the worry on everyone's faces at breakfast. "I'm not going to work today," Rosa announced, setting a bowl of cereal in front of Carmen. "I called in sick to both jobs." "Mom, you never call in sick," Carmen said. "Today is different. We need to figure out what to do about Mr. Brooks." Miguel looked up from his coffee. "Maybe I should go talk to him. Try to work something out." "No," Rosa said firmly. "He'll just threaten you again. We need a better plan." A knock at the front door interrupted their conversation. Through the window, Ezra could see Mrs. Chen standing on their porch with a plate covered in aluminum foil. "Good morning, dear," Mrs. Chen said when Rosa opened the door. "I brought homemade cookies for the children." "That's very sweet of you, Mrs. Chen, but may I come in? I have something important to discuss with your family." Rosa stepped aside, and Mrs. Chen entered the kitchen. She was dressed nicely, like she was going somewhere important, and her usually cheerful face looked serious. "I heard about David Brooks' visit yesterday," she said, without waiting to be asked. "Word travels fast on Maple Street." Miguel frowned. "How did you hear about that?" "My neighbor Mrs. Patterson saw the whole thing from her window. She was very upset." Mrs. Chen set down her plate of cookies and looked directly at Miguel. "She also recognized you." "Recognized me?" Mrs. Chen smiled. "She's not just a neighbor, Mr. Martinez. She's also a retired attorney who spent 20 years helping families fight powerful bullies." Ezra nearly choked on his cereal. "Mrs. Patterson is a lawyer. Was a lawyer. Now she's a very angry neighbor who doesn't like seeing good families get threatened." Mrs. Chen pulled out her phone. "She asked me to bring you this." The phone showed a text message with a phone number and the words, "Tell the Martinez family to call me immediately. I have information about Brooks that could help them. Margaret Patterson, attorney at law, retired." Rosa stared at the phone. "She wants to help us?" "More than that. She's organizing the whole neighborhood to help you." Before anyone could ask what that meant, another knock came at the door. This time it was Mr. Miller from the market, carrying a thick folder under his arm. "Good morning, folks. Mrs. Chen said you might need some assistance with a certain Mr. Brooks." Behind Mr. Miller came 3 more neighbors Ezra recognized. The Garcia family from the corner house, Mrs. Washington from across the street, and young Mrs. Kim, who had just moved in last month. "What's going on?" Miguel asked, looking confused. Mrs. Chen grinned. "The neighborhood meeting, of course. We called it last night after we heard about Brooks's threats." "You called a meeting about us?" Rosa's voice was small with embarrassment. "We called a meeting about Brooks," Mr. Miller corrected. "You're just the latest family he's tried to push around." Mrs. Garcia, a plump woman with kind eyes, stepped forward. "My husband does construction work. Brooks hired him last year to build a deck, then refused to pay the full amount. He said the work wasn't good enough, but he never gave us a chance to fix anything. He did the same thing to my cousin, Mr. Miller added. Contracted him to paint an office building, then complained about the color and demanded half the money back. Mrs. Washington nodded angrily. And he's been trying to buy up all the small houses on this street so he can tear them down and build expensive ones. He offers way less than they're worth, then spreads rumors about crime and poverty to scare people into selling. Ezra looked around at all these adults who had come to help his family. But why do you care about our lemonade stand? Mrs. Kim, who was young and had a baby on her hip, spoke up. Because your lemonade stand represents everything good about this neighborhood. Hard work, family values, helping each other. Brooks wants to destroy all of that. Mrs. Chen opened her purse and pulled out a manila folder. Which is why we spent all night researching David Brooks and his business practices. Miguel took the EBUST folder and opened it. Inside were dozens of printed pages, news articles, court documents, and business records. What is all this? Evidence, Mrs. Patterson's voice came from the doorway. She entered the house with a briefcase in one hand and a determined look on her face. Evidence that David Brooks isn't as powerful as he pretends to be. Mrs. Patterson was a tall, thin woman in her 60s, with gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. She wore a business suit that made her look like she was still practicing law. Mrs. Patterson, Rosa said, Mrs. Chen told us you used to be an attorney. I was a legal aid attorney for 23 years. I specialized in helping working families fight wealthy people who thought they could push them around. She opened her briefcase and pulled out more documents. Men exactly like David Brooks. She spread papers across the kitchen table. Brooks Construction has been sued 17 times in the past 5 years. 9 times for not paying workers. 4 times for shoddy construction that had to be redone. 3 times for discriminatory hiring practices. And once for environmental violations. Miguel picked up one of the court documents. He lost most of these cases. He settled most of them out of court to avoid bad publicity. But the records are public. Mrs. Patterson pointed to a newspaper clipping. This article from last month shows that the city is investigating his company for overbilling on municipal contracts. What does all this mean? Ezra asked. Mrs. Patterson smiled. It means Mr. Brooks has a lot more to worry about than one little boy's lemonade stand. And it means he's made a lot of enemies in this town. She pulled out her phone and showed them a list of contacts. I spent this morning calling everyone Brooks has cheated or threatened in the past year. Guess how many of them want to help bring him down? How many? Carmen asked wide-eyed. All of them. Rosa sank into a chair. I can't believe you're all doing this for us. We're not just doing it for you, Mr. Miller said. We're doing it for everyone Brooks has hurt, and everyone he might hurt in the future. Mrs. Patterson sat down across from Miguel and Rosa. Here's what I propose. Instead of hiding from Brooks, we go on the offensive. We file complaints with the city about his business practices. We contact the families he's cheated and organize them to demand justice. And we make sure everyone in Bakersfield knows exactly what kind of man David Brooks really is. But he threatened Rosa's jobs, Miguel said. He could destroy our lives. Mrs. Patterson smiled. That's where Mr. Miller comes in. Mr. Miller grinned. My sister owns the cleaning company Rosa works for at night. She's been looking for a reason to drop Brooks's buildings from her contracts because he's always late paying his bills. And my brother owns Patterson's Grocery, Mrs. Patterson added. He's been wanting to fire Brooks Construction ever since they did such poor work on his store renovation. Rosa's eyes widened. Your brother owns the grocery store where I work? He does. And when I told him about Brooks's threats, he was furious. Nobody intimidates his employees. Miguel shook his head in amazement. So Brooks can't get Rosa fired? Not only can't he get her fired, Mrs. Patterson said, but both companies are prepared to give her raises and better hours if she needs them. Ezra felt hope bubbling up in his chest like shaken soda. So we can fight back? We can do more than fight back, Mrs. Patterson said, her eyes sparkling with determination. We can win! Mrs. Chen clapped her hands together. Which brings us to the most important part of our plan. What's that? Rosa asked. Tomorrow is the Bakersfield Summer Festival downtown, Mrs. Chen explained. Thousands of people come to shop at the vendor booths and enjoy the food trucks. Mrs. Patterson smiled. And thanks to my connections at City Hall, Ezra Martinez just got approved for a vendor permit to sell lemonade at the festival. Ezra's mouth fell open. Really? Really? We're going to show David Brooks and the whole town what a real young entrepreneur looks like. As Ezra looked around the kitchen at all the neighbors who had come to help his family, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Maybe love and determination really could beat money and power. But first, they had to survive whatever David Brooks would do when he found out they weren't giving up. The real fight was just beginning. Saturday morning arrived with golden sunshine and the smell of fresh bread from the bakery downtown. The Bakersfield Summer Festival was in full swing by 8 a.m., with families walking between colorful vendor booths and children laughing on carnival rides. Ezra stood behind his official festival booth, wearing his best polo shirt and a huge smile. His lemonade stand had never looked so professional. Mrs. Patterson had helped him order a real banner that read, "Grandma Elena's Famous Lemonade, Made with Love." 3 large dispensers held his special recipes: classic lemonade, strawberry, lemonade, and the new mint lemonade that had become everyone's favorite. "This is amazing," Carmen said, helping arrange cups and napkins. She wore a matching polo shirt and had convinced Rosa to let her braid ribbons in her hair for the special day. Miguel and Rosa stood behind the booth with proud smiles, watching their son's dream come true on a scale he had never imagined. The festival permit had cost $50, but Mrs. Patterson had paid for it as an investment in young entrepreneurship. "Look at all these people," Rosa marveled, watching families stream past their booth. "I can't believe how many are stopping to buy lemonade." In the first 2 hours, Ezra had sold 43 cups of lemonade and made $32. Every customer complimented his recipes, and several asked for his business card, which Mrs. Chen had helped him print at the local copy shop. "Young man," said an elderly woman with a cane, "this is the best lemonade I've tasted in 60 years. Reminds me of what my grandmother used to make." "Thank you, ma'am. It is my grandmother's recipe." The woman bought 4 cups to take to her. "Friends?" And Ezra carefully counted his money again. $38. More than he had ever made in a single day. But his happiness was interrupted by a commotion near the festival entrance. A security guard was arguing with someone, and Ezra could hear raised voices over the cheerful festival music. "I don't care what your permit says," a familiar angry voice shouted. "That boy doesn't belong at this festival." Ezra's stomach dropped. David Brooks was pushing through the crowd, his face red with fury. Tyler followed behind him, looking embarrassed as people stared at his father's loud behavior. "Sir, you need to calm down," the security guard said. "The young man has a valid vendor permit." "That permit was obtained fraudulently," Brooks yelled. "This is a quality festival for respectable businesses, not some charity case for poor kids." Miguel stepped forward as Brooks approached their booth. "Is there a problem here, Brooks?" "You're the problem, Martinez." Brooks pointed an angry finger at Miguel. "I told you to shut down this lemonade nonsense." A crowd was gathering now, drawn by the shouting. Festival-goers stopped shopping to watch the confrontation. Ezra noticed several people pulling out phones to record what was happening. "The boy has every right to be here," Rosa said firmly. "He has a permit, and he's running a legitimate business." Brooks laughed harshly. "Legitimate? This is a joke. A 9-year-old selling sugar water from a card table." "It's not a card table anymore," Ezra said quietly, but his voice carried across the crowd. "It's a real booth at a real festival. And my lemonade isn't sugar water. It's made from my grandmother's special recipe." "Your grandmother probably never had a real business license in her life," Brooks sneered. The crowd murmured angrily at his rudeness. Someone called out, "Leave the kid alone!" But Brooks ignored them. "Here's what's going to happen," Brooks announced loudly. "I'm calling the police to shut down this illegal operation, and then I'm calling the health department to inspect these unsanitary conditions." Mrs. Patterson appeared beside their booth, carrying her briefcase and wearing a confident smile. "Actually, Mr. Brooks, the health department already inspected this booth yesterday." Passed with flying colors. Brooks whirled around to face her. "Who are you?" "Margaret Patterson, attorney. And I have some interesting documents you might want to see." She opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick stack of papers. Court records showing 17 lawsuits against Brooks Construction. Complaints filed with the city about fraudulent billing practices. And testimonies from 12 families you've cheated or threatened in the past 2 years. Brooks's face went pale. "Those documents are private. Actually, they're public record. And as of this morning, copies have been delivered to the Bakersfield Gazette, the City Council, and the Better Business Bureau." The crowd pressed closer, sensing that something important was happening. Ezra noticed several reporters with cameras pushing through the people gathered around their booth. "You can't do this to me," Brooks sputtered. "I have powerful friends." "Had powerful friends," Mrs. Patterson corrected. "Funny how quickly those friendships disappear when people find out about your business practices." She pulled out her phone and showed Brooks a news article. This morning's headline, "Local construction company under investigation for fraud." Makes for interesting reading. Brooks grabbed for the phone, but Mrs. Patterson pulled it back smoothly. "Mr. Brooks," she continued in a voice that carried across the festival grounds, "you have 2 choices. You can leave this family alone and let this young entrepreneur run his business in peace. Or you can continue this public tantrum while everyone records it on their phones." She gestured to the crowd. At least 20 people were holding up phones, filming every word of the confrontation. "Your choice. But I should mention, threatening children at a public festival tends to go viral on social media pretty quickly." Brooks looked around at all the cameras and angry faces surrounding him. For the first time since Ezra had known him, the powerful businessman looked scared and small. "This isn't over," he said quietly. "Actually, it is," said a new voice from the crowd. A tall woman in a police uniform pushed through the people gathered around the booth. Her badge read, "Sergeant Martinez." No relation to Ezra's family, but the name coincidence made him smile. "Mr. Brooks," the police officer said calmly, "I've received several complaints about you disturbing the peace and harassing vendors. You need to leave the festival grounds immediately." "You can't throw me out. I'm David Brooks." "I can and I will. You're causing a public disturbance." Tyler stepped forward, his face red with embarrassment. "Dad, please, let's just go home." For the first time in the whole confrontation, Brooks looked at his son. Tyler's eyes were filled with shame and sadness. Everyone is staring at us, Tyler whispered. Everyone thinks we're the bad guys. Brooks looked around at the crowd of festival-goers, all watching him with disapproval and disgust. Phone cameras captured his angry face and threatening words. In a few hours, everyone in Bakersfield would see exactly what kind of man David Brooks really was. "Fine," Brooks said through gritted teeth. "We're leaving." As he turned to go, Tyler broke away from his father and approached Ezra's booth. The crowd fell silent, watching to see what would happen. "Ezra," Tyler said quietly, "I'm really sorry for everything I did to you, and for what my dad just did." He pulled a $20 bill from his pocket and put it on the counter. "Can I have a cup of lemonade? I've never actually tried it." Ezra stared at Tyler for a moment, then poured a cup of his classic lemonade and handed it to the boy who had bullied him for so long. Tyler sipped it carefully, then smiled. The first real smile Ezra had ever seen on his face. "This is really good," Tyler said. "Your grandmother must have been an amazing cook." "She was," Ezra replied. "She always said the secret ingredient was kindness." Tyler nodded and looked back at his father, who was standing at the edge of the crowd looking furious and defeated. "I have to go," Tyler said, "but maybe sometime we could be friends instead of enemies?" "I'd like that," Ezra said, and he meant it. As Tyler walked away with his father, the crowd began to cheer. People rushed to Ezra's booth to buy lemonade and congratulate him on standing up to the neighborhood bully. "That was incredible," said a woman with a notebook. "I'm from the Bakersfield Gazette. Can I interview you about your business?" More reporters appeared, asking questions about Ezra's lemonade recipes and his plans for the future. Customers lined up 6 deep to buy his drinks. By the end of the day, he had sold over 200 cups and made more money than he had ever imagined possible. But the best part wasn't the money or the attention. The best part was standing behind his booth with his whole family together, watching the sunset over the festival grounds and knowing they had won not through anger or revenge, but through hard work, determination, and the support of their community. Miguel put his arm around Rosa, and she leaned against his shoulder. Carmen counted the day's earnings while Ezra packed up his supplies. "So, what happens now?" Rosa asked. Miguel smiled at his son, who was carefully folding his banner for next weekend's farmers market. "Now we watch our boy build the business empire he's always dreamed of." As they walked through the festival grounds toward their car, Ezra looked back at the booth where his lemonade stand had triumphed over threats and bullying. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities. But tonight, surrounded by his family and supported by his community, Ezra Martinez knew that dreams really could come true. Sometimes the most powerful thing in the world wasn't money or threats or expensive lawyers. Sometimes it was just a 9-year-old boy with his grandmother's lemonade recipe and the courage to never give up. We'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and tell us your city and country. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for many more inspiring and interesting videos just like this one. And don't forget to share this video with your friends and family, because stories about kindness, determination, and never giving up are meant to be shared. Together, we can spread awareness about the power of community support and the importance of standing up to bullies. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next story.